Welcome to Breath of Fresh Air, the podcast bringing fresh insight and real talk to the world of dental practice management. Your hosts, Amanda Demora and Sarah Hamlin, are two industry insiders who've seen it all from the front desk to the C-suite. Amanda, the founder of Essential Dental Services, now Daydream Dental, is an operations consultant, business coach, and practice management expert. Sarah, former COO of Essential Dental Services, continues her leadership journey as the COO of Daydream Dental, a cutting-edge dental billing company. Together, they deliver unfiltered conversations on dental office operations, leadership, revenue cycle management, team dynamics, strategy, industry trends, and more. Designed for practice managers, dentists, assistants, and front office professionals, this podcast is the ultimate resource for anyone looking to optimize and elevate their dental practice. Take a deep breath, because Breath of Fresh Air is here to shake things up and help dental teams build smarter, smoother, and more successful practices.
Are you a dental professional tired of complicated contracts and hidden fees when you're ordering supplies? At Frontier Dental, they're making things simple.
With over 40,000 products from over 80 trusted brands, you'll always find your favorite products without the hassle. No contracts, no minimums, always free shipping. Plus, their team is made up of former dental hygienists and assistants, so they truly understand the needs of your practice.
Are you ready to simplify your supply ordering? Use promo code FDBOFA at checkout and get $20 off your first order.
Visit frontierdental.com to shop now and experience a better way to buy dental supplies.
Now, let's dive into today's episode.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Breath of Fresh Air podcast. I'm Amanda Demora.
And I'm Sarah Hamlin.
And today we're really excited about this episode because it's about picking the perfect dental conference and what is worth your time and travel. Mm-hmm. But as usual, before we dive in, Sarah, what have you been up to? I know that you were at CDA in California.
Yes.
How was that?
I was at our own ADA conference and it was good. It was busy. You know, that's the thing about these conferences is you get so excited to go and then you come home just like totally pooped. So that was definitely me. I'm trying to recover a little bit this week, but helps that the weather around here has been getting nicer and it's like, you know, I can't believe it's almost June, by the way. So we're like headed into summertime and I don't know, that just makes it feel easier to recover and be more excited to get outside and do all that. So
yes, I was just telling Sarah off air that while I had a half an hour, I ran down to the nursery and I was going there for this very interesting hydrangea, but ended up filling up my cart. So I was just, as Sarah was texting me saying she was done her meetings early and ready to record, I was dragging a garden cart across my lawn full of plants over to my greenhouse where they will probably sit for a couple days, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that sounds like a Sunday project.
Yes, waiting to be planted up. Or, you know, when I have a little help from my husband to do the literal dirty work. So, yeah, it's Memorial Day. We're heading into Memorial Day weekend. I feel like years past, I generally have some more interesting plans than I do this year, which is nothing, but I'm okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
Are you guys doing like
also,
a or anything?
No, we don't have any like fun food plans, unfortunately. I guess I could get that together, but definitely looking forward to, we're going to go out and about and try to go to the beach and do some stuff on Monday with the kids out of school and us off work. So that will be really nice. But I think our weather's actually supposed to be pretty good by Monday. But what is this I hear that you guys like had some crazy storm over there and like snow?
We didn't see any snow here, but yeah, it was called a nor'easter, which I always equate a nor'easter with snow, but I guess it actually can mean rain too. But our temperatures have completely tanked and we've had the heat on. And we were looking at like a year ago today, it was 90 degrees out. So I'm not sure what I would prefer, dreary, rainy, and cold, or would I prefer 90 degrees. I'm really not sure. I don't do well in either.
we would just prefer it to be 70 and perfect. Like, I don't understand why that's so hard. Why can it not just be, the ideal temperature? I don't get it. Ugh.
It's very hard when the weather is crappy and you have young kids, honestly, because they just need to get outside.
Yep.
For everyone's sanity.
For sure.
Well, Dentally, I just recorded a podcast with Teresa Duncan, so I'm very excited about that, and I'm excited to have our listeners hopefully check that out too. It's always nice to chat with her and record with her and get her insight on things. She's kind of like our guru, so that was fun. Dentally, that's about it. You're the traveling one now, not me. I'm just doing like webinars and virtual
travel.
Yes. All right. So let's dive into today's episode. Again, we're talking about how to pick the perfect dental conference for you, what's going to be worth your time in travel, what matters when you're trying to decide which one to go to, and all of that stuff.
Yeah, it's not an easy thing. And honestly, sometimes I hear about conferences or I look them up and I'm just I immediately get kind of overwhelmed by thinking about the logistics and the cost and all of those things. But it definitely is something that people should be giving their time and energy to. And as we'll discuss, the ROI on some of these things can be really worth it for you.
So what we kind of want you guys to take away from today is how to choose the best conference based on your goals, budget, vibe, pros and cons of national ones versus boutique conferences, what to look for in a course lineup and what to skip, how to maximize your investment, whether you're going solo or with your team, and then how to make the most of what you're actually learning and how to bring all of this back to your team and implement it. So I wanted to start off by saying, why do conferences still even matter in this age of, as I was saying, webinars and virtual learning events? To me, there's a little bit of a magic of being in a room of people who get it, people who are doing the same things as you all day long and are in your same shoes.
One thing that I was just thinking about when we were at CDA, I went into it kind of thinking in the age of the internet, conferences do feel a little like they might be kind of obsolete, right? Because, if you want to find things out, you just Google it and you search for it online. Whereas, 20 years ago, you went to these conferences because that was the way you found out about these companies existing. But there truly is something to be said for these conferences still, in that if you don't know that remote dental billing is a thing or a service that people offer, you're obviously not Googling for it. So coming to a conference and seeing that there are, companies that are offering this or doing this kind of service is great too. It's exposure to the new changing industry. And with the way that technology is getting involved in dentistry more and more and more, you just never know what new fun companies might be popping up that you need to go learn about.
And there's just nothing quite like the energy of a live conference. There really isn't. And if you attend a few and decide they're really not for you, then hey, virtual learning is your way to go. I do know that obviously with some licenses and things like that, they do require you to have some live credits. Yep. I do think that those can still all be virtual depending on what what state you're in, as long as it's an actual live webinar, but still. So I want to talk about some of the different types of conferences out there, kind of like a big versus boutique. So when I say a big conference, I mean like Chicago Midwinter, Yankee Dental in Boston, Greater New York, conferences like that. How big was CDA, do you think?
Big. Yeah, I think they said 6,000 attendees.
Okay. All right.
So I think it's comparable to Midwinter, Yankee, and New York for sure.
So to me, any conference you go to is going to be what you make it. But these really big conferences like those, we're talking huge exhibit halls, which are great for scoping out new tech and tools, but they can certainly feel overwhelming. Definitely like Yankee Dental in Boston, you kind of like, you enter and you're on the second floor.
Yep.
And then you get on this escalator, and it's the escalator down to the floor, the showroom floor, and you just see the whole thing, and it does seem very overwhelming.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they can feel a little bit less personalized unless you're going in with a plan.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't really just like wander in these kinds of conferences. I mean, you can if you have the time. And, you know, these are definitely, these kind of conferences, in my experience, are a little bit more enjoyable with a friend or a buddy because they can feel so overwhelming. But if you've got somebody to kind of tackle it with you, it does feel a little bit more doable. And I like your idea of going in with a plan. You know, check out your courses, obviously ahead of time. I'm sure you've probably registered for them ahead of time, but also if you do want to scope out some vendors, make a little bit of a plan for like which particular vendors you're going to go hit that corner of the room first. And then if you have time to wander after that, great. But, you know, get your main stuff done and so you don't get sucked in and distracted with all the craziness.
We always, at least in my practice, vendors would kind of reach out to us. Definitely the ones we were already working with would reach out to us ahead of time and say, hey, is anyone from your office going in to Yankee? Would love to see you. We have something for you, whatever it might be. And I always did kind of like, well, I still do. I like going and meeting them, putting a face to their name, and they like meeting their clients too. So it's nice to be able to make connections that way. Otherwise, it's easy to just feel like an attendee, right? You're wandering around alone. I like the buddy system. We go in as a practice, so we all go in. We might splinter off to different courses, but, you know, we all come back together for lunch and, you know, walk a little bit of the showroom floor and things like that. So it's nice to not go in and feel so lonely, but definitely carve out time to go on the floor. Don't pack your schedule so much with the CE that you don't have time to check out the floor and vendors and things unless you really, really don't want to. But yeah, it's an experience for sure.
Yeah. And it also is, you know, a benefit to being at these conferences. It can feel a little hard, like we said, daunting, overwhelming, exhausting, honestly, too. There's so much stimulation in these rooms from sound to visual. And some of them are a lot of walking, a lot of being on your feet. But yeah, I do think it's definitely a benefit to those conferences. So a great thing to kind of take advantage of.
It does feel a little bit crazy. And now that Sarah has actually been a vendor at one, I'm sure you can kind of attest to the fact that it's kind of like go time for the vendors too. They leave there exhausted.
Yeah.
So, you know, go easy on them, people.
Yes.
I think one of the things that I don't love as either like an assistant or even front office role is I always feel like there is not a ton of CE offered to those roles at these big conferences. They're really aimed towards dentists, secondary to that, hygienists, and the other kind of roles within the practice don't have much of a course offering. But that's probably for several reasons. I think those roles also have less attendance in general, you know.
Yeah.
So when the meeting planners are picking speakers and courses and all those things, there's probably less allotment for that. But what they don't realize is maybe more would go if there were more
better offerings.
Yes. But if you are going to one of these, there are some strategies here to have you feel like more of a connection and less of just like an attendee. And that's like little meetups. And I see there's a bunch of these. So you'll kind of see, so at Yankee, for example, I've been going to this one for 20 years. That's why I keep talking about it. there is, Tufts Dental School alumni meetup and all of the Harvard and all the other surrounding meetups and lots of alumni things. But also for me, I'm a member of DO, which is Dental Entrepreneur Woman. And there's a DO meetup at Yankee and most of the other conferences as well. So it's nice to kind of just meet. It's usually a small handful of people too, depending on the conference. So it's nice you just make a little connection that way for sure.
Yep.
DO is a national organization and I have not had the opportunity to meet everybody or even some of the local members either. So it's nice to make connections that way for sure.
Yep. And like we mentioned earlier, having those connections and, you say hi to somebody for 10 minutes or so, but you might also meet somebody who is there alone and also wants somebody to kind of walk through the vendors with them. Like, that does just make things a little bit easier if you're traveling alone. Find somebody to kind of hang out with and link on to, and it'll just make the whole conference feel more fun.
So my personal favorite, maybe Sarah too, we'll let her weigh in on these, but is some smaller, more boutique conferences. What do you think?
Yeah, I think there's definitely a time and a place for both, but generally, especially for, RCM focus and front office focus, I think that the smaller, more boutique conferences are definitely more up our alley for sure.
Yes. For you and I and probably the bulk of our listeners, I would say this is the way to go. Even if you are working in a specialty, ortho, perio, whatever it is, I think conferences geared towards those you're going to, at Yankee Dental in Boston, there is almost no ortho or anything like that. So if a specialty is where you're working, you're going to want to seek those out. I did go into an endo conference here in Boston recently, and that was obviously specialty focused and was a lot of fun. So some of the ones that Sarah and I could confidently recommend because we've been to them or at least heard really good things because I have not been to all these is ADOM's conference, which is in September of every year. We've talked about this a million times. But
talked about our meet cute.
Exactly. I cannot speak to what the future of these conferences may hold, but the past have been great. And it's another kind of an instance of they are what you make them.
For sure.
For sure.
And also, sorry. I was just going to say, I know I said this about the big ones, but I also say it about the small ones is if you can find a buddy or somebody to link up to, like, I don't know, maybe it's just me being a huge introvert, but I'm like, if you have someone to just kind of navigate these things with you, it just makes it so much more enjoyable, at least for me. So at ADOM, even though it's a lot smaller, it definitely can still feel overwhelming. I think, they average between like 1,000 and 1,500 attendees. So still a lot, still not a tiny conference. And, finding somebody to kind of link up with or, meet your bestie and future podcast host there, you never know.
It's, as adults, okay, I'm a grown adult who is almost 40. Going to a conference for the first time, especially like an immersive one like ADOM, which is kind of how I feel like it is. You have breakfast every day with the same people. You have lunch every day with the same people. I just reverted to like a middle schooler. I was like, oh my God, where do I sit? Who am I going to eat with? All of those things can feel overwhelming, like you said, without a friend. ADOM did make it really easy for us to meet people. They would, seat you by region of the country that you were in or different things like that. So
yes,
if you're nervous, don't be that nervous. You just got to channel your inner adult and put your hand out and meet some new people.
Yep.
Another conference that I love is obviously things tailored to revenue cycle management and insurance. So I had the lovely opportunity of being being able to speak at Accelerate, which is Vine's revenue cycle management conference. That was in 2023. Sarah was there too. And that was great. Very small. That very first conference was only, I think, 150 people. It's gotten a little bit bigger since then. They might even host it twice a year at this point.
Yeah. So I am signed up to attend the one upcoming in July. So I'm excited about that. It is in Nashville, which I'm also excited about. I have not.
Oh, that is going to be exciting.
Yes. It'll be a quick trip for me. It won't be as much like fun and sightseeing, I don't think, but definitely still excited to go and excited to see how it has changed from, the very first one that we went to a couple years ago. So
yeah, how it's grown and evolved. I know that there's definitely some great speakers there.
Yeah.
Sarah and I talk a lot about where you're getting your insurance information from. And I know that everyone speaking there is someone that I would take advice from. So
yep.
Very important.
Absolutely.
The Insurance Extravaganza, which is Christine Taxon's event, that is a lot of medical and dental billing and really, really great speakers there too. I haven't been to that one only because I've, either been pregnant or having children. But I would really love to go.
It on my radar, but I swear every year I only start to see ads for it a month before the meeting, and it's either sold out, which is a great sign, or I just can't get the logistics in place to be able to make it in a month, but I need to put it on my calendar. I think it's usually in March. It's earlier in the year, so I need to put it on my calendar for 2026 for sure.
Yes, you do. Another kind of more boutique, definitely smaller for sure, but really packed is one that I was a part of this past fall, which is the Pediatric Dental Growth Summit. So it's for pedo, ortho, really all specialties could go, even general, and get something out of this too. But that was smaller and more boutique, and the speakers kind of rotated throughout the day. There were shorter sessions, but really jam-packed. So think, I was obviously doing insurance-related speaking. There was dental attorney. There was dental ergonomics. There was an airway speaker, just marketing, so much good stuff. This year, it is in Texas at the Marriott, which has a lazy river. Not that I'm trying to entice anybody, but that sounds really good to me. And it's in September. I'm going to put the link. I am not speaking at this one, so I have no skin in the game. It's just a great conference. So I'm going to link that one below for anyone interested in our show notes. So really just boutique conferences, I think deeper networking, more targeted learning, and a more supportive vibe, in my opinion. And you could meet your next bestie there. You never know.
Yeah, exactly. You never know. Also, I will say one of the things that I do really love, and this kind of is kudos to Teresa for sure, is that I do think that at these smaller events, you get a chance to kind of interact and mingle with some of the speakers too. Some of them are kind of, out and about and around and, more than happy to kind of connect with you on a more individual basis. And I think that that's something, we could all use a little more connecting and networking, especially with people that we, look up to as good sources of information in the industry. So that's definitely a plus to some of these smaller conferences too.
Absolutely. Actually, Teresa and I were talking about that on her podcast. And I was kind of saying that in the dental space, people kind of look to dental speakers, particularly the really big and well-known ones, as these mini celebrities that are unapproachable.
Yeah.
And they're not, and they're just people. So that is, like Sarah said, that's your chance to, say hello and get to know them a little bit and make connections that way, and even pick their brain about something that is interesting you or plaguing you or whatever it is. Okay, we're going to take a quick break from today's convo, but don't skip this part because we want to talk about something that's actually made a huge difference, especially in my practice's bottom line, and that is supply ordering.
Oh, yeah. Okay. No, I remember you telling me this story. You were saving a ton of money. And who were you guys using again?
We switched to Frontier Dental about a year ago. I have been loving ordering from them. Their website is super fun. Each product has 360-degree views of products, which doesn't sound like a big deal, right? But when you're trying to figure out that exact pointy, extra fine burr that your doctor wants to order, or some obscure dental instrument that you've never heard of, you want to make sure that you're actually ordering the right thing.
Yes.
So I've been loving that feature.
In those instances, the 2D magazine picture that's, hand drawn by somebody else does not cut it when you need to find that specific burr. And I have obviously been there in my offices too, where we've ordered the wrong thing because of that catalog. And then you have to do the whole return shuffle, wait for your rep to come, pick it up. Maybe you'll be able to exchange it. Maybe you won't. It's just such a headache.
Right. And the pricing is the best that I have found, honestly. So that makes me keep coming back. But besides that, we've now gotten to know their team, and their culture is just awesome. They actually care about their employees and also their customers ordering from them. And it's hard to find a vendor that can combine great prices and support like that. They're constantly reaching out to make sure that our office doesn't need anything or that everything went well. And I've just been super happy. And it's unlike any supply company that I've ordered from before.
I love it because honestly, like with a lot of these supply reps and stuff, they stop by the office and everybody knows them and everybody just feels like they're there to upsell you on stuff, which they sometimes are. But in this case, it sounds like Frontier's really there to support your practice more than anything. And I love to hear that.
Exactly. So if any of our listeners are still ordering from the same old vendor and you haven't done a price check against another company in a long time, please check out Frontier. This is your sign to do it. Their website is awesome. And when we reached out to them to ask if they could offer our listeners a discount, they agreed.
Yay!
So by using the promo code FDBOFA, we'll have that in our show notes. You can get a discount off your first order. Back to the episode. All right. So you've got maybe your conference picked. And if it's a big conference, you may have quite an array of courses to pick from. So, how do we pick courses that are actually going to help us and interest us? So going into it, I think knowing your why, what are you there for? Are you trying to improve systems? Are you trying to train your team? Are you trying to learn new tech? Mm-hmm. What is it that you're actually there for?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because otherwise, especially in some of those bigger conferences, the meeting rooms and the number of attendees in there are so huge. It can be a little bit easier to kind of lose focus and not pay attention. And, you have to remember that you're paying money to be there. You're spending time, usually taking time away from the office and away from your family and everything to be in there. So you really want to make sure that those courses that you're getting something out of those courses. And when they're larger, and if you're just kind of going to get, to sit in a course just to sit in a course, you're just kind of wasting your time, your money, your energy by not making the most of it.
Mm-hmm. Avoiding kind of the CE checkbox trap. So don't just take CE to take CE. Focus on things that are going to solve problems or interest you. One thing that's kind of my red flag when I'm taking courses is when the courses are sponsored by a company. Now, that's not always a bad thing, especially if it's a company that I'm interested in their product or I already use their product. But I do, just in my experience, I do feel like these courses can be a little heavy on the sales pitch, and sometimes it kind of makes me question why they're giving the information they are, and maybe how accurate is it because it's really trying to funnel you to their product? That's just my opinion. So I try to take CE that is unsponsored. And ADOM in the past has been great at kind of having a mix of sponsored CE and non-sponsored CE. So just something to look out for there if that is important to you.
Yeah, for sure. I think that that makes a difference. And honestly, it makes a difference just in how you feel about the CE, right? Like I said, you're spending your time and your energy in this class. And if you have any feeling about, not sure if this speaker is really that qualified to be speaking on this, or why are they talking about this, or is this just trying to push me in this direction, that's going to ruin your whole experience about it. I don't think everybody has that feelings about that feeling about sponsored classes. So if it doesn't bother you, then yeah, great, go ahead. But just kind of know like your own feelings about those things before you sign up and spend your time on those kinds of things too.
I recently took Sarah's right. First off, they are not all like that by any means. And,
right.
Use your own caution there. I did recently take one that was on fluoride, and there's such a hot topic right now, especially in some of my mom Facebook groups. This is very, very talked about.
Oh boy.
But
your worlds are colliding, moms and dentistry.
And I was really excited about the course, but it was really just like a sales pitch for this one particular fluoride product, and I didn't get the information out of that course that I was hoping for. But anyway, I like to hear different speakers. I don't always like to sit in a course by the same speakers that I have been listening to for 20 years. I like fresh perspectives. Kind of like this podcast is called The Breath of Fresh Air because we're offering a fresh perspective. No, I just, there are some speakers that I will listen to over and over. Definitely, Teresa and Rick Garofalo, because they're on top of their topic and it's ever changing. And there are some things in dental that aren't necessarily ever changing. So if it's a speaker that you haven't heard before, don't just write them right off because, they're not super well known. They might offer something new and different and kind of open your eyes to something that another speaker wouldn't have.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that is true. You never know. And you do kind of have to give everybody a fair shake. I also think this is where it's a great time to kind of reach out to your network a little bit too. Like, hey, has anybody, ever been to a CE by so-and-so or heard about so-and-so? Are they worth going to? Like, reach out to that network ahead of time too, to figure out if this is going to be your vibe and somebody that you want to sit and listen to for an hour or hour and a half or whatever the time is for that CE.
And then next, don't forget the fun factor. Now, I think you and I can speak a lot to this, the fun factor. So location, to me, that matters. If this is a conference that I am traveling to on a plane, I want to go somewhere that I really want to go. So with the conference Sarah and I met was in Scottsdale. That was so nice. Great. I think about it a lot. It was at a beautiful resort, and we spent a lot of time at the pool and spa in between sessions. This past fall, as I mentioned, I was speaking at the Pediatric Dental Growth Summit. That was in Maui. That was just like no-brainer. And with some of these, like you're able, at least I have turned them into mini vacations, whether that is with a friend or your family. My husband came with me this past fall. Well, he sort of demanded to. I would have invited him, but he, as soon as I said it, he's like, I'm coming. Like, don't even think I'm not coming to this one.
Nice try.
Right. And then just checking out like some perks to where you are. Hotel proximity to other things that you might want to see. Alamo. Zara and I went there.
Oh, the fun times.
Yes. You might be able to skip the Alamo. I'm not trying to be mean, but We just walked up and we were like, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Here it is.
We did it to say we did it, and that was that.
That was about it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just does this area or city excite you? I think I would have really liked to go to CDA because I love California.
It was fun. You know, we were like just a couple of blocks from Disneyland. So it definitely, I was thinking that when I told my kids that I was that close to Disney, they were pretty upset. Why aren't we coming? So yeah, I think definitely take those things into consideration. I think tons of people do at these CEs. They plan, you know, family trips and a little extra day of vacay or whatever around these CEs because yeah, it makes total sense. 2 birds, 1 stone.
Yes, especially so when there's a lot of conferences that happen in Orlando, just of all different kinds. So Sarah and I were at the ADOM conference in Orlando. We went to Universal. We will have forever memories from there. I was actually I have 11,000 photos on my phone.
Oh gosh. What?
That's a big number. Well,
yes, it is.
They're all like, you know, I have 30 of one particular thing that happened with one of my kids, and like
of
you
course.
just can't delete one.
Yep.
So I was thumbing through them the other day, trying to clean out some, and I was looking at some of our pictures from Universal, which you kindly snuck photos of me drinking my butter beer, and
I still have the printed out photo of us on the Velocicoaster that is pinned to my board right next to my computer. So I get to look at it all the time.
See? Things like that. I had already told Sarah, like, I don't think that this body would survive the Velociraptor coaster, whatever it was, one more time. So I'm glad we got to get that out of the way while I still could.
Exactly. And we have photographic evidence to live with us forever.
Yes. So yeah, you can turn things into a vacation. So I highly recommend doing that if this is something you're going to be going either on a plane or, you know, a long car trip for. Budgeting and time considerations. It's always nice when, you know, your doctor might be so kind to pay for these things. If it's something that you think they might be on the fence about, I would try to organize the reasons why you want to go and what you can take away from this particular conference as kind of like a little selling point for them.
And I think also, you know, keep in mind when you're talking to your doctor, or even if you're talking to your manager, maybe who needs to talk to the doctor, or, you know, whatever the case may be. Honestly, you could just be trying to convince yourself, as, you know, if you own your own business and you're trying to figure out if you can justify this expense, like take some time to think about how it's going to help the business, the greater business, the business as a whole, because it might be you that's going to these CEs, but how is what you learn here and, you know, the networking and the new knowledge, how is that going to play into bettering things at the office, bettering things for your business, making you more money down the road, making you, you know, a more knowledgeable and reliable source of information for people at the office or for your clients. So just kind of don't shy away from thinking about the bigger picture, because there might be a lot more that you can kind of come up with than just, I want to go to this conference because it's in Orlando.
And kind of segueing from that is, don't let FOMO be your deciding factor here. I think there are a lot of conferences that look good in theory, right? They're in Aruba, they're on a cruise, they're whatever it might be, but make sure that the courses and the whole entire like outline are fitting what you want to go there for, because these are investments, whether it's from you or your doctor. And you do want to be able to get something out of them. And I definitely know that I have strayed away from some conferences that I've gone to a million times and kind of felt like, you know what, I'm really not getting anything out of this anymore, and I need to pick something else. So,
Yep.
I think we kind of had on our agenda here to pick our top picks for conferences. I think I kind of already gave mine. So ADOM, Accelerate, Pediatric Growth Summit, those are kind of all my big ones for sure. I really would like to check out Chicago Midwinter. That's one I haven't been to.
And we did really like Chicago.
We did. We did. I would gladly go back there. I'm not sure about the bagels, but
But also, remember we were there, when were we there? Like February? When is midwinter? Is it in January?
I think we kind of just missed it. Like
I was
we were
thinking
close.
the weather in Chicago for midwinter might not be the vibe, but honestly, we were there in February, and remember we had that one day that was like 75 and like insanely gorgeous. So I guess you just never know.
Right. And then we realized, okay, it's not just our areas of the country that we live in that are wacky with weather. And then Sarah and I really want to go to Dental Podfest, but I have seen nothing of its next year's mention yet. So it's supposed to be one in 2026, but I haven't seen anything about it yet. I'm hoping that
All
happens.
right. Dental Podfest, get on it. We're anxiously awaiting.
I've seen so many people say good things about that conference, and I'm surprised that I haven't heard anything.
I need to know where our next meetup is going to be. We're kind of just
going to be around here because you want to do your little fall foliage tour in New England, or Dental Podfest, which I think would be in Orlando. So,
well, we shall see.
Maybe we'll head
back
up
to Orlando. Yeah, switch it up.
Yes.
Then my kids will be extra mad because I went to Disneyland and Disney World without them. Oh.
All right. So wrapping it up here, and that is like going from conference back to your break room. So making this conference count. So it's not just about going, it's about what you're bringing back to your practice. So definitely make sure that you're taking good notes. One of the ways Sarah and I bonded at that first conference is she was taking notes on her iPad with her Apple Pencil in her Good Notes app. And
Apple now owes me like a referral bonus for this because Amanda went and got herself outfitted the same way.
I did. I got the same screen thing for the iPad, right? I forget what that's called, but it makes it feel like paper. And I got my Apple Pencil. I haven't looked back. So taking good notes and bringing that back to your practice. So what my doctor that I work for would do is every time we always went into, as I mentioned, Yankee Dental as a team. And he wanted to hear what everybody learned about in their respective courses. So, the assistants were taking courses geared towards assistants and et cetera. So he wanted to hear what they had to bring back. And I think that's really important to make time to do so. So whether that is a staff meeting after, or maybe a couple just morning huddles over the next week or so where everyone gets to share, I think that's really valuable to the whole team. And, it also puts a little weight behind what you're even doing there.
Yeah. I think it's I think it's important after any conference or meeting that you go to, but especially if this is the first time that you've gone and you did get your doctor, they were generous enough or gracious enough to pay for some or all of your experience, then definitely come back and prove that you took it seriously, that you retained some information that you're excited to share. Don't shoot yourself in the foot here with that situation. Make it worth it for everybody.
Yep. Shared Google Doc where everyone can add an actionable tip or something like that can be a really good tool as well. So,
Yep.
All right. Wrapping up a bit. So even if you bring one thing back from your conference or your course, which, to be honest, I would say out of every course, I usually have one nugget. There's very few that I have more, unless it's something completely new to me.
Yeah.
But if it's just one thing that makes your team happier or your patients happier or streamlines your workflow somehow, it was worth it for sure. Don't have to go to all the conferences. You just have to really pick the one that's right for you. So be intentional.
Yep. Yep. And don't, try your hardest not to be overwhelmed. Try not to be overwhelmed by the conference options. Try not to be overwhelmed by being at the conference. Try not to overwhelm yourself with taking notes. You don't have to take notes on every single thing. You focus zero in every aspect of it, and it's going to make the whole process a lot more enjoyable for you.
Yep. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for listening, and we will see you on the next episode.
Bye.
Bye.